System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' Inner City Left.
This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Today is Tuesday, August 5th. I'm Amin TMK alongside Amoja Lil Tanky Sumler. Amoja, hello. How are you? How is your Tuesday? And what is this fire-ass shirt you got on right now? That thing is nice.
You know I'm repping that Inner City Left. I don't know if you know him, you know what I'm saying? Kind of an underground leftist inner city thing, man. You probably ain't heard of him.
Only the cool kids have.
There it is. And me.
You're definitely a part of the cool kids. Well, I'm a part of the cool kids. There's no question about that one, right? Okay, I'm a part of the cool kids, and I'll bring you along to the party, and I'll vouch for you. It'll be all good. Yes, exactly. Hopefully we'll have more than one. That's what Asada Shakur won, who had a book I don't have out here. But anyway, that's a story for another day. Shout out to Asada. Yeah, you see the title. Let's talk about it. Want to show you this. Popped up just today. This is one of these Congress dudes, man. One of these little dickheads, man. And basically, he was at these town hall meetings. You know how these town hall meetings can get nowadays. These politicians are not used to this style, but it's needed. He's in a contested race. So this is Republican Representative Mike Flood, his real name. When he's asked about Medicare for All in this town hall. I'm gonna let this play. This is from More Perfect Union. Please follow them. They're one of the dopest pages out there that keep you up to date. But anyway, this is Mike Flood. Let's get it popping, and I'll get your response.
Every working and retired American should be entitled to health care. Would you sign on or write up a bill for Medicare for all? We've got Medicare now. We can start rolling back the age 5, 10 years at a time. Would you support that?
We can't afford that.
Yes, you can.
We protected Medicaid as the safety net for those who cannot care for themselves, who are vulnerable, for those who are able-bodied and working. I will tell you this, and I cannot take any credit for it. President Trump is going to bring down prescription prices because the countries you mentioned have been paying way too little for way too long, and we've been subsidizing them.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about as poorly and as badly as something can go. What were your thoughts from Mike Flood?
Yo, man, coming up in the arts world as you did, as I did, one of the first things you learn how to do is read the fucking room, man. I don't think I'll be able to get this poem off in here.
Yeah, this ain't time for the erotic piece, man. That one's not gonna work in this venue.
Look, all jokes aside, right? Here's why it doesn't work. These people believe in socialism for self, okay?
Socialism for me, but not for thee.
If you was talking about, in that room, like, do immigrants deserve Medicaid? Oh, hell no. Ooh, never that. You know what I'm saying? But, like, these are people that in their imagination have done the things that are supposed to make sure you're taken care of. They're regular salt of the earth white people. They've probably been loyal Republican voters for 20, 30 years, 40 years. You know what I'm saying? And the internet exists. When you can see that Europe pretty much has socialized medicine, when you see that Canada pretty much has socialized medicine, when you hear about people that are getting on planes and going to China to have surgeries done and it's still being cheaper, getting a flight, getting a visa, going to China, getting your liver taken out, getting your liver put back in, getting stitched up, and flying back to America, and it's still cheaper than getting, those kind of surgeries done in America. People don't understand it. When these Republicans are looking at a place like Israel that these people can't wait to fly to and kiss the crying wall and knowing that all of these Israelis get free health care, you can't sell this shit no more. You might could have sold it in the 70s. You might could have sold it in the 80s when people's standard of living was so much higher, that it's like, and in that room of, let's be honest, older white people in the 70s, you might could have got away with that speech. But now these are guys that need these services. They're older, they're coming out of the workforce and they can't even get Medicaid, half of these people. They used to, in the 80s, you're thinking about Medicaid the same way that, conservatives continue to think about, welfare, But the reality is most of the working poor now is on Medicaid. It's not homeless people. I mean, it's also homeless people, right? But it's also, that guy with the PhD who's only who isn't tenure track, who's only doing a couple of classes at the university, because Lord knows they're not being offered no full, full right. So like, that's where it is now. Regular people need these things, people that thought they would never need, and you just can't go out there and be like, nah, we ain't got it. We ain't got it is the wrong answer. When again, like you said at the beginning, there's 50 billion more. 50 billion more that's going to Ukraine, from the president that said he could stop this war on day one. Look, I get it. 50 billion isn't the world's biggest sum, but it's not nothing. 50 billion is enough to give 350 million Americans $143 each. A little bit less, but I mean, so imagine if nothing more than every American got $143 health voucher right now. That would have impact. Okay, there would be people that would go and get their dentistry worked on. At least, what I'm saying? Like, again, not to say that you could pay for any of those things, but it would be money that you wouldn't even begin to start. Like, I know I can't afford to go and get my teeth cleaned. Oh my God, I got this wisdom tooth. How am I ever right? And that's just the latest batch of money that's going. When you look at the hundreds of billions of dollars that's already went to Ukraine, this is what happens, right, with these people who thought that money would be going to America. The America First, Republicans that felt like this money is going to start to be used toward the deficits. This type of money is going to start to be used towards my grandma, my niece, who's having a little hard way after she got out of college or got out of high school. Right. And yet instead, it's more of the same. You can't sell this shit because these are people that have nothing and thought they were promised everything.
Profit is the only thing that matters right now in America. And that is we profiting off things that should have never been a part of the, the capitalist market, things like housing, things like medicine. These are not things that you can try to monetize. And I one more, public transportation. Public transportation is a gift that we should be giving to the people of our country. Again, we're taxpayers. I hate to say that because it doesn't really matter, but these are our taxes. I don't understand how public transportation is we're not seeing bullet trains. But not only that, I'm a public transportation user. And here in the DC, in DC, there was a time last year where the bus was free. They repealed that. They're now charging people $2.50 to get back on the bus. And anyone who can't pay is removed from the bus forcibly and given a $50 citation. This is a person who cannot afford a bus ticket. And these are the type of strenuous enforcements that we see with regular everyday people, yet somehow, first of all, 1 billion of this is already out of this bill. 1 billion's already out of it. And that's that's already been directed directly to Ukraine. So that's happening, not to mention the 500 million that the NATO countries pledged earlier today. So this whole thing, I'm just going to read this for our podcast listeners. So title is Bipartisan Pair of Senators Seeks $54.6 billion in new aid for Ukraine. The measure faces long odds given past Republican opposition to sending additional assistance to Kyiv, but it comes as President Trump has signaled a new openness to finding a way to back the nation. And this goes back to the Donald Biden, Joe Trump kind of idea that these things are not changing and they're not getting better. This is something, let's pull this one up, see what we got. Something else insane happening here. EPA reportedly planning to reverse its ban on forever chemicals in the drinking water. After years of research, lawsuits, and proof that these forever chemicals cause cancer, infertility, liver damage, and more, the agency tasked with protecting your health is now rolling it back, all to appease industry donors and chemical giants. Is from Brian Allen. Again, I just put these things out here because what Mike Flood said is that they can't afford it, right? You got money for Ukraine, but there is no money. But right now, we don't have the ability to regulate forever chemicals, which is destroying the planet just as much as plastic and any of those things are. And they seem to be, it seems that everywhere you turn, my friend, we talked about this last week. The EU bill where we're basically fleecing the entire European Union. Where is this money? I know you have a lot of student loan debts. You're one of them smart people.
Wow.
And, you seeing that we're supposed to be getting all this money from gas. All these things are supposed to be happening. But yet we're rolling back on EPA regulations. Student loans now going into even more aggressive collections. How come America seems to be winning in these regards, but we don't ever see it?
So the thing to think about is the kind of companies that make forever chemicals are the same kind of companies that make the chemical warheads. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're not talking about a nuclear process, most of the bombs that exist in this world are utilizing chemical processes. You see what I'm saying? So the same kind of companies, right? And there's only a few, right? You don't have to be very secretive about who they are. That make the forever chemicals are the same ones that make your warheads. So it's like, a little bit of, carrot and a stick. Look, we noticed, even as the branding with Pete Hegseth and all of these guys moved from saying things like soldiers to using and normalizing language like war fighters, right? They're already broadcasting what's coming. And to keep those kind of companies on their good sides, right? They roll back these kind of protections. These are the kind of things that do not change, whether you're talking about a Democrat or a Republican. This is the real damage that came to the world with Citizens United. And this is why neither the Democrats or the Republicans have no real interest in ever removing those things, even though it is legalized bribery that has become the rot that is destroying the empire. It doesn't make any sense to win the war if we all die of cancer. That's just the bottom line. But at the same time, these are industries that are not nationalized, and there's an argument for that. This is what China does. China actually, it's partially nationalized, partially subsidized. Russia, pretty much kind of the same model. But I tell you what happens. These companies are not selling to other countries, but with the approval, right, of the governments, right? And I guess you can make the argument that it happens the same way in America, except that it's the other way. Like, look at what Japan had to do, right? They had to promise to buy so many Boeing planes, right? Like, to be friends with America, you have to promise that you're going to buy these, right? And that's the way it is. Like, the government doesn't regulate these companies so much as they are managed by them. Never forget that a Boeing exec, right, was the Secretary of Defense under Biden. That's a real thing. That's insane. Whose priority is it going to have? It's going to be the company that made him a millionaire. Even though these are guys that did have careers in the military, that's not what made them millionaires. These guys were made millionaires from their time in these corporations, and that's whose interest they have.
Yeah, they squeeze. This is the big squeeze, and it's been happening for quite some time, but they're trying to get every ounce of juice out, every peel, every rind. This is what we talked about last week with the massive trade deal with Japan, which is really just, again, a strong arming, not really a negotiation, but we set the terms, accept them. And that's happening with America's proxies, with America's so-called allies, and it's also happening every day with regular individuals. Like me and you. Sorry, I already put that one up, but there's another one I wanted to show you because it's never ending. It's literally never ending in America. Okay, and this is what we're trying to say. Like when other countries talk about, and this Donald Trump's going to come in and something's going to change, and this doesn't change. This is also from More Perfect Union. Federal Education Department has suddenly suspended student loan forgiveness under a long-standing repayment plan. This is what I was talking to you about a little earlier. The income-driven program that allows borrowers to get their balance erased up to 20 to 25 years of payments is no longer operational, man. These are not everyone goes to school for free. This is people who've been trying to pay this off for 20 years, 25 years. That is half of people's lives sometimes. Mm-hmm. And these things are being, repealed.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you continue to pay every year, and yet the sum goes up. You have to attack debt. But how could you do that when wages are suppressed? You know what I'm saying? It's not like, I can just work harder and somehow, I'll pay this debt off, especially when what you do as work is often very specialized, when you're coming out of the university. I have a very specialized degree. Most of the friends that I have that made it through the academy have specialized degrees. I could work 80 hours a week at McDonald's. That's not going to and send it all to them. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to bring the bill down, and I'm a regular Joe. I didn't go to like a private university. I went to state universities, you know what I'm saying? But no matter how much you make, it doesn't keep, how about this? When the interest rates are higher than the increase of the standard of living, that in and of itself should tell you that's a recipe for going backwards, I think
the word I would use is predatory.
Right.
Would you sign this, I don't know how many $100,000 loan or whatever it is at 19 or 18 or whatever it is. Right. I mean, and then having no way, even throughout 25 years plus, of hard work paying back, not to have any forgiveness.
Tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah, no, that's exactly the way it is. And that goes back to where all of these things, it's the reinvention of the serfdom, right? It's the ugly fact that Americans work more hours a year than the medieval serf did. That's insane. That's fascinating. And it's incredibly negative, It's just you're given the illusion of a better life because you have more access to the kind of things that you claim to want, but almost all of the things that you would want are things that put you in debt. You want shelter. Okay. So if you can't buy a house, you have to rent a house. This is money that you'll never make back. And magically, even though the house never gets better, every year you owe a little bit more. Rent keeps going up. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with a house, it already requires you to have a pretty sizable nest egg. Okay. Most people are not coming out of college and buying a house. If anything, you're putting your old house up, or, you're getting a loan from someone, an institution or a family member, right? All of the price of everything has went up in a real way. This is why, again, especially for us on Inner City Left, we don't talk about GDP as nearly as much as per person purchasing power. The PPP is a way better indicator of where you are in life as a culture. And as Americans, your PPP is much lower today than it was in the 80s or the 70s. That leads to a verifiable diminishing of your standard of living, which leads back to the very first slide. Old people out there saying, why can't we get health care? We worked, we put in, we sacrificed our bodies for America. What is America willing to do for us, right? When they watch America willing to do quite a lot for other countries,
And that brings you kind of the Marjorie Taylor Greene stuff, the strange bedfellow stuff. Again, I'm not here to praise any conservatives or Republicans. That's not what I do. It's not what we do. But again, where are the Democrats on this? Where are the Democratic voters and the people out there saying, I don't want to send any of this money over there? There was something that she tweeted out, and I don't know the truth to it, but I did mention it to you, and it's about people in America that are both married and own a home by the age of 30 years old. Now, in 1950, that number was 50%. 50% of Americans owned a home and were married at the age of 30 years old. That number is all the way down to 12%. 12% of Americans are married and have a home at the age of 30, which to me sounds like only a trust fund baby could possibly have something like this. But if you think about it, it's not the most absurd thing. We know that 85+% of Chinese households are home owners. They own their home, or they are very close to paying it off. And most of the quote unquote home ownership in the United States, the numbers are not homes that have been completely purchased. They are just numbers that this person is on the deed and they own it until they finish paying off the bank, so on and so forth. So you don't have the ability to get a home. This is why we're seeing people late into their lives with roommates and things like this. We are seeing all these defaults on credit card debts and loans. You can't even get them through the courtrooms, and because the things are so backed up. America, again, I think it's important just to acknowledge, because we talk about geopolitics all the time, is losing in a geopolitical world. It's not, people say this all the time. Oh, the markets are going to correct themselves. That's not true. How does the market correct 900,000 homeless people? And this is the thing, is rich people and people who are investing in all these other things, they're already keeping their heads above water, which feels like being rich in today's society. So of course they're just, acknowledging their own reality, but that's what we have to do as activists and analysts and things like that, is not look at just our lives and our circles, but what's happening on a systemic level, what's happening in a macro level. And what we're seeing in the United States is less healthcare, less housing, less, and marriage and kids and all these things. These are indicators of, thriving societies. There's a difference between North Korea and South Korea. It's not that one country has more than the other. It's that one country has a huge suicide rate and a lack of birth rate, living in what many people would say is a more technologically advanced world, even though we know North Korea is sanctioned to death. And North Korea has a much lower suicide rate and a much higher birth rate. That was a lot to say. What are your thoughts, my friend?
Monogamy in this economy? And you must be doing good indeed. Like you said, man. I mean, that was the whole, if you got a trust fund, you can get married, and probably to someone else with a trust fund. You know what I'm saying? Like, those problems don't exist. But the old ways, right, which are what the traditionalists say the West is predicated on. A man goes out and finds his stake and stakes his claim in his 20s and accrues wealth, for 10 years. And you come back and you get the wife and you get the house and then you get the kids, and, the Western civilization carries on. They've betrayed that entire class of people, the people that believed in that. And that's just the truth. And at the end of the day, now when you ask for those things, the government still wants that birth rate up. But how can you? If everybody's working your real job, your side hustle, and then your little secret dream on the side, if it really pops, this will happen, right? Who's got time for courtship? Serious courtship? Who's got time to go out and make those kind of human connections with other people? Who's got time to develop themselves in a way whereas you'll even be attractive to someone? And more than a financial matter, right? Like, more than just the money, your self-actualization as a human being. When's the time you're going to have to go home and read those books that are going to make you a person that is worthy of the attraction of whatever sex you're interested in,
Or participation in communities, and where you would normally find a person who could be a partner.
It just literally isn't time, because all you got is money for your student loans, money for your health care, money for your rent, money for your car. I remember we were having a conversation recently, and you told me that the average car payment in America is over $700 a month.
Yeah, $750.
You know, 20 years ago, that was a rent payment. That wasn't a car payment.
You had 750, then you probably was driving around like a S class or something.
350 or something like
Yeah,
what?
something real nice.
You're doing good.
Something that's a neck breaker. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, and again, that just goes to show the relationship of capital to the people. It's less and less connected, and people have less and less resources. But your credit stays high enough that they give you these things. You know, you don't own the BMW. You have a 3-year lease, right? And clout culture makes that work for you too. Because like now you never got an old car. You the dude that's always sliding through in something nice, you know, but you never own anything. The bank gets everything, just like the mortgage game. You know, you pay. You put 15 years of payment in, you miss a couple of payments, and now the bank takes your whole shit. And they sell the whole house all over again at the evaluation of the new price, which will always be higher than the old price. Right? It's not even like they sell for like what's missing, you know, oh, it was a $200,000 mortgage and they've paid off $150,000, but their $50,000's in arrear. You don't buy the house now for $50,000. You buy the house for the new rate, which is now appraised at probably $400,000, $500,000. And so like the banks get to do good, but the regular people never do. Like not even your kids can come by and be like, oh, this is our house. This is our heritage home, you know, I'll just buy the rest, the $50,000, and it'll be mine. That does not happen. That house gets shopped out to anyone in the world now that can buy it, you know, and there's no loyalty.
Including BlackRock or Vanguard or
Absolutely.
any major corporation that has $9 trillion to spend.
And they don't
Can't compete with
spend
that.
real money. They get it on leverage. You know, they you know, all of that stuff is leveraged to the hilt. You know, because they have so much money that's coming in, it's literally a legal Ponzi scheme at this point. Just playing hot potato between BlackRock and Vantage. You know, oh, we insure you. Oh, we insure your loan.
We bought stocks in your company. Well, we're going to buy stocks in your company.
Oh,
Let's buy stocks in every company.
Really high. Your stocks look really good.
They look so good. I think other people should buy them at a very high rate.
We decided to investigate ourselves, and we found ourselves to be not guilty.
Innocent.
In fact, we're the real victims.
We're owed.
Heinous witch hunt.
You know, and this kind of goes back to Barack Obama and the collapse in the late 2000s and too big to fail and all that stuff. I mean, this comes and bites you, you know, on the butt. You know, it's like a little sting.
Our entire civilization changed with that housing bubble in 2008. They were able to leverage out enough credit to make it look like everything. But at the time, they called it a financial 9/11. They said it was a hole that no one knew how far it went, how deep it went. And the $500 billion was just to staunch the bleeding because it was a bigger hole than that. The banks are doing good, and all the Americans lost their homes.
Yeah, you know, hopefully y'all got the Tupac reference, or Big Pac fans, I guess. Big Pac fans, I don't know, more than average. I don't know. Much love and respect for Pac. Yeah, let's give a shout out to our podcast listeners because we're available everywhere you find podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, Podcast Watch, all that good stuff. Fables, Foibles, Other American Sins on InnerCityLeft.com. You can check that out. I want to give a shout out to our patrons. We have a wonderful and budding community of all kinds of wonderful people all across the left. And why not join us? Why not be a part of it? We also have free subscriptions as well as the paid ones. But thank y'all for the support, and it's needed. I don't know if that's like breaking protocol or whatever, but it is needed and it is appreciated. And we have tiers as low as $5. So if you want to let us hold $5, you know what I'm saying, for the revolution, let us get that. What am I missing? We got some music coming out at the end of the month. Blitz package, myself and Tanky. Yeah, search our music anywhere you find music. Purchase it, or you know, give us a stream, and we'll have 0.00136242 cents, in which I can start to build some money, so maybe we can purchase a home.
That's it.
I'll just need 150 trillion streams, And if I get to that number, I feel like I could maybe start to consider myself a real artist and live off of my art. Anyway, I digress. Anything we missed, Tanky? Any of your final thoughts?
Like and subscribe. Thank y'all for putting up with our fun, foolish silliness. But just trying to come at y'all with some real geopolitical truth. You know what I'm saying? It's an interesting time, and we're in one of those middle periods where people are just restacking and getting ready, man. We're riding and coasting through the eye of the hurricane, but you can't do it for too long. No one can. Instability is a certainty,
Yeah. For Emoji Lil Tanky Summer, I'm Amin TMK. This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Peace.
System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' Inner City Left.